about that.
It's showtime.
Welcome to the YATCast. This episode is about the missing founding document for the United States. In the last episode, episode 1, I indicated that there were 4, not 3. And in this episode, episode number 2, I am going to go over what it is and why it's important. First of all, I'd like to give many thanks to all my real life and Facebook friends from all over the spectrum. They have made me dig deeper into a lot of things and gain a lot of understanding, not necessarily from their points of view, but just the sheer fact of digging deeper and thinking. So let's get started. Now, those with a conservative bent should pay attention to this episode. And seriously, fact check me. Look at the information that is available. Now, we will need to go back in time once again so that we can understand a little bit better why this document exists and why it was replaced. Now, in 1776, the United States declared its independence from Britain. In 1789, the U.S. Constitution was written. The question is, what happened in those intervening years? Now, the Revolutionary War was over in 1783 with the Treaty of Paris. But still, there's a gap of time that needs to be filled in with respect to these United States. And I've spent a lot of time lately thinking back and trying to remember history classes, and I don't really recall this document being covered at all. There's like Declaration of Independence straight into the Constitution. So I'm not sure why it would not have been covered at all, but I don't remember. Now, my memory may be a little faulty on this. That's possible. Now, the missing document is the Articles of Confederation that were written and ratified from 1776 into 1777. Now, it's a framework of a central government, but it's drastically different than what we were leaving and what we were to become. It's not even a middle ground. However, it is very, very important. Now, you have to remember, starting in 1776, with the ratification of the Declaration of Independence, we were just coming out from under a tyrannical monarchy that was heavily influenced by those with money. Now, King George didn't happen in a vacuum. He didn't operate in a vacuum. Although, by the British standards of government at that time, his word was it, period. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't be influenced. In fact, he was greatly influenced by those that had money. What we would call today pretty much oligarchy, the oligarchs. They would have the king's ear. through sweet talking, bribery, various means, they were able to some extent bend his will to suit their needs. Now, the Articles of Confederation, you can look them up. I'm not going to read any particular part of it or anything like that. Was about as far from a monarchy as you could get and still have at least some semblance of cooperation, unity between 13 rather disparate organizations. And this is what I was meaning whenever I said that those with a more conservative bent, those who would like to see the federal government more restricted than it is, that it could be, quote, drowned in a bathtub. The government set up under the Articles of Confederation was severely limited in what it could do. It had no teeth. It was just a legislative body and not much more. There was no judiciary to try those who violated any of the laws that were made. There was no law enforcement, meaning there was no way that the centralized government can enforce anything. Now, at the end of the war in 1783, in dollars of the day, the United States was $40 million in debt. $40 million back in the 1780s. Today, that would be around $750 million, almost closing in on $1 billion in debt. And the government making all these arrangements with foreign nations such as France and the Dutch and private individuals. There was no way to pay. Any bonds that were issued by the government to raise money fell to 10 to 20 cents on the dollar. The government of these United States couldn't even pay the interest on these loans. To top it off, some states refused to pay their share. It was like, hey, we're free now. Why should we do anything? Compliance with any laws was pretty much voluntary. The whole situation was a shambles. Shays' Rebellion, one of the most famous post-Revolutionary War events, almost succeeded because the federal government couldn't muster or had problems mustering a military to put down the rebellion. England and Spain were a thorn in our side. I mean, England was recognized as an independent country, but that doesn't mean they didn't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak. Each state was allowed to pretty much do whatever they want. So we ended up with 13 different sets of import and export laws, both interstate and international. There are multiple currencies being used, including the pound and year to year, the economy would go from inflation to deflation to inflation to deflation. In effect, there were 13 individual countries incapable pretty much of doing anything to protect themselves, to grow, or anything like that. The people, the average person, was getting fed up with the situation. A businessman or anybody traveling, going from one state to the next, had to learn 13 different sets of laws. It wasn't working out. So, in 1787, the people had had enough, and a constitutional convention was called, which gave us the Constitution of the United States, which is what we have now. And another YATCast, I'm going to go over that a little bit more as to why the Constitution is such a wondrous document that has a lot of foresight, a lot of things that a lot of people are screaming about not being in there, but it's there. You just have to stop and take a look and think about it. All right, so thank you for spending some time with me, and I'll see you at the next YATCast. Are you enjoying the YATCast? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/YATCast. That's https://www.patreon.com/YATCast.